Hello, and welcome to the PowerPlay series. I'm Darren Peters, founder and managing partner with Peter Damon Group, and I'm joined by my colleague, Camille Moore. Hey, Camille, and
Hello,
congratulations on your recent honor where you received the Women's Leaders in Energy and Climate Fellowship.
Thank you very much, Darren. Really excited to be here and even more excited for our guest today. His name is Tristan Wilkerson. He is the managing principal of Think Rubix, a social innovation consultancy. He's also founding partner of High Street Equity Partners. Now, Wilkerson has worked as a senior aide on Capitol Hill. He has directed political campaigns, and he's also taught at the collegiate level. Tristan has appeared on BBC and MSNBC to speak about his many endeavors as well as his thoughts on current events.
He's my homeboy from Arkansas.
That's right.
And a Little Rock native. We are grateful to have him today. Tristan, welcome to the PowerPlay series.
It's an honor. I appreciate the invitation.
All right, Tristan, you have an impressive track record. You've built a variety of businesses, including Think Rubix, which you describe as a social innovation consultancy. Now, for folks who might not know what that means or what that is, could you tell us a little bit about Think Rubix and what you're currently tackling?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're asked that quite often, like, what is Think Rubix and what do we do? It's an opportunity for us to really sort of shed light and sort of bring folks into understanding that the world as we know it is changing. There are paradigmatic shifts that are happening, all the time. And so part of what we have done at Think Rubix is to sort of get out in front of as much of that as possible. So rather than being sort of, a classic public affairs consultancy or political firm or, what have you in this space, we saw fit to be a little bit more diverse and dynamic. And so our goal here is to practice change making. And the way that we do that is really in three ways. There's change management, there's culture change, and then there's systems change. And so at Think Rubix, that's how we understand social innovation. The ways in which we have constructed our firm is even simpler than that. We've got 3 different studios where we practice our work: an engagement studio where we perform all of our public affairs work, our political work, our outreach. And we understand engagement may be a small word, but it's got a lot of meaning. And so we do a lot of front-facing things there in that space with nonprofit partners, with philanthropic partners, and in the corporate and municipal spaces. We've got an equity innovation studio. It's a term that we coined to help understand the intersections of equity and also the economy. And so we say, we're saying more of this. Equity innovation is just transformation. That is to say that if you're undergoing some sort of change, how you go about that change is as important as the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. So that's where we perform all of our research. A lot of our writing happens in that space. It's our sort of internal think tank, if you will. And then we have a storytelling studio where we perform a lot of our creative work, narrative work, messaging work. It's a fun space. It's that space where all the content happens, all these things that the young people do that I'm still trying to keep up with. But it's fantastic. They do great work. And so, yeah, that makes Think Rubix. We're a 3-in-1 shop, social innovation, change making.
Very nice. Look, Tristan, in 2017, I know you founded a venture capital firm called High Street Equity Partners. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us a little bit more about the problems your firm is solving and what High Street means to you?
Yeah, I appreciate that shift. So Think Rubix obviously is the consulting work. It's where we do all of our smart work. But part of what we have realized is that even with some of the folks that we're working with, the issues of access to capital, the issues of really growing and scaling businesses, the issues of supporting entrepreneurs to be more than entrepreneurs, but to be enterprising is widespread. And so having spent a lot of time in my short career in movement spaces, one of the things that we have encountered at every turn has been the in some cases, total lack of support for entrepreneurs, which is so important because many of the issues or the roots of lots of the issues, social issues that we see are really economic, and not economic in just the financial sense, but economic in the quality of life sense. And so with High Street, it's part of how we're building out our ecosystem to add another tool to our belt, so to speak, give us the opportunity to be the change that we're looking to see by organizing money to invest, not just for wealth building purposes, but frankly, to create opportunity for folks who are deserving of it and just have not had that opportunity in a long time. And so one of the things that we sort of say at High Street is that, we are looking to be a connective tissue, to organize resources, not just money, right? Money is critically important, but knowledge capital, information sharing, and some of the other needs that are critical to entrepreneurs who are looking to be enterprising. And then also to have our ear as close to the ground as possible, partly why we named the firm High Street after our old stomping grounds back in Little Rock. So in that sense, we're able to do some bridge building work and really make sure that resources are getting where they need to be so that we can see the quality of life improve, to see entrepreneurs of color, women find success. And I think, we know this to be true. When we lift up the least of these, we do a lot for the whole. And so that's the thinking there. Creating value with more than capital is sort of the mantra at High Street Equity Partners.
We recently had a guest, Don Myers, who's the CEO of the Most. And I think, if you all don't know each other, hopefully I can connect you all after the show, because I think there can be some synergies between what she's doing and what you're doing.
I love that. I love that.
Look, I'm a dad. I got, two great kids, one, my son, Brandon, I'm very proud of him. He works with me at the Peter Damon Group, but I'm also a girl dad.
That's right.
You're a girl dad.
That's exactly right.
Your daughter.
Well, you know how it goes even better than I do. When you're a girl dad, you got a boss. Okay, there's a little person running around that calls all the shots. So yeah, I'm fortunate to be a girl dad, a very proud girl dad. My princess Hadaya Zion is 4, will be 5 in October. Full of life and all kinds of little, quirky things. It's interesting. As a girl dad, and especially as a Black man, I never realized how much I'd actually learn about myself, as a father. It's quite revealing. She definitely brings out the softer side of me, for sure. and she inspires me in ways that I didn't always know I could be. And so it's a blessing for sure. And I'm excited. I was telling a friend the other day that my dreams, I dream about what her dreams are. It's just that sort of otherworldly just energy that you have as a dad when you just want and will for your children's success and their development. And so we're excited. She's coming into a greater consciousness. So of late, she's been expressing herself in some really cool ways, learning words and language that I didn't expect her to use so early on. She's convinced me, believe it or not, to get her a cell phone, which I still am trying to figure out if that was a good idea or not. But she's using it and she's learning how to read even more and more, and she's being conversational. And just the other day, she said, all right, now it's time to tackle music. And we're getting into sports. So here we are. We're on our way.
Keep it going. Keep it moving forward.
Yeah. How old is your daughter now?
My daughter's 20, and she's about to be a junior in college. But she's doing a lot of very interesting things, from athletics to music to entrepreneurship. I mean, it's amazing to see, some of the things these kids are capable of doing.
That's right. I've seen your updates on Facebook. And it serves as a roadmap for me. Like, this is how you do it right here. You know, this is how you do it. Girl Dad of the Year. The nod goes to you.
Well, I love that. And also coming from a family, my dad has 3 girls. So it's fun to kind of hear you guys talk about being Black women, Black men raising Black women.
That's right.
So this next question has to do with your time on the Hill. We understand that you are a former Hill staffer, as was I. And I was really curious to know what your time on the Hill taught you and what it equipped you with in terms of the work that you do today.
That's a fantastic question. So, and you were on the Hill more recently than I was. So I'm certain your experience is even more rich than mine was, given the climate we live in politically. But my time on the Hill came at an interesting time. We, those of us who are, progressives and or registered Democrats, had lost power in 2010. We lost the House. And so what that meant was getting anything done. And Darren, you know this, as you've been lobbying the Hill for some years now, it's almost impossible. And what you're challenged to do is really work, with folks across the aisle. Now, I'm from Arkansas. A lot of folks who represent our districts are Republicans. And so you would think that there's some common ground that could get you some success. Oddly enough, though, that's not exactly what I learned. That I think my time on the Hill came at a time when the political brinksmanship was just further and further entrenching itself. And obviously, we find ourselves in a climate now where it's nearly impossible to get anything done. I mean, I am not only surprised, but also grateful for the work that folks are doing on the Hill right now just to get infrastructure done, which is so critical. And we finally got like a bipartisan deal on that. But the odds of getting anything else done are quite slim. And I think that's an unfortunate circumstance that from my time on the Hill has told me the way we build political power is really, really important. So believe it or not, my time on the Hill taught me more about home and outside the Beltway than it actually did about how we practice lawmaking in this country, how we govern. And so I only spent about 3 years there because, frankly, we weren't getting a whole lot done. And things were happening in the world that as a young man, I was deeply moved by. In part, circumstances involving Black men and the police was starting to reach a peak. Trayvon Martin's unfortunate murder occurred while I was on Capitol Hill. We organized around that. The burgeoning of Black Lives Matter was just taking root. And so, a lot of us, me and my peers and colleagues, were compelled to get outside the Beltway and get engaged and get involved. And so from a political standpoint, bearing in mind how we govern is so critical. We had the opportunity to build some political power. And that was the goal. That was the goal. And so that's exactly what we did. And so I think in a lot of ways, when you work on Capitol Hill, you get like a master's education. It's a very collegial environment. You learn a lot about how things are done. And I remember sitting across from Jamie Harrison back when he was at the Podesta Group and I was just an intern. And he told me that when you work on Capitol Hill, it's okay to be an expert and know everything about one subject, but most folks know just enough about everything, right, to be able to have a conversation and move people, because it really is about forging connections and building community. And so the idea that I share with folks is that when you walk into a restaurant, there are 2-3 dozen tables, right? And everybody's having a different conversation. Well, in politics, you got to be able to go to each of one of those tables and keep up in the conversation, have a language where you can talk to anyone at that table. And I think that is what I walked away with. And it has enabled me to build community practically everywhere that I've been and work on presidential campaigns and with candidates who we share values, right? Who are lifting up the banner of Black lives, who are practicing equity in their policymaking. And what that has done has created really a tremendous lane where we are now actually performing the political shifts as opposed to waiting for it to occur. We're out there engaging people, having diverse conversations, with diverse communities and moving people in a way that creates some shared values. And we've been fortunate to be enterprising in that sense. But the reality is that there's just so much work to do that I don't know that we'll ever really have it all figured out, but we're going to keep working in that same spirit. It's like, can we move people to improve and create some balance, to have quality of life? And as COVID has shown us, and I'll shut up after this, COVID has shown us just how critical it is that we have organizers who are working across industries, who can move people in a way that helps us promote a shared values, so that folks can have a quality of life that is becoming of an American, becoming of what it means to be in this country. And there's just so much inequity, so many ills that there's just so much work to do. Anyway, that's what the Hill taught me. You should tell me what the Hill taught you.
You summarized that really well. I really like that analogy of being able to go from table to table and keep up a conversation. I think it's exciting to see someone in your role using your agency to speak and impart those messages at a lot of different tables. It looks like, think Rubix, and through all of your partnerships, you're doing a lot of different things with the same message of building that equity and building that power. So that's very exciting. Now we're coming to the question that we ask all of our power players. And you might have touched on it some, but we're really curious to know if you had just one power play, meaning that you had the ability to change an issue or a problem that could make the world a better place, what would it be and why?
That's a loaded question. What'd you say?
A lot.
On the spot, let's see. I can tell you it has to do with money. I'm just trying to think, where exactly would we want to see that shift? I'll say this. I think there's a great deal of repair that is overdue. And how we perform that repair is obviously a question that's still somewhat outstanding. There's a lot to draw from everyone, from Dr. Rashawn Ray's to the Kimberly Crenshaws and folks in between, around what repair ought to look like. But I do think that we've got to address the ways in which resources are distributed in this country to create opportunity. And I don't know exactly what that looks like from a monetary policy standpoint, but I do know, and it's interesting, one of our fellows at Think Rubix, she is a Spelman graduate and she's a PhD candidate at UCLA. She's writing on critical race theory. And we've encouraged her, just let's take a very approachable or approach it in a very sort of layman, plain speak kind of way. Help folks understand, like, what is the reason and also development of critical race theory. And she wrote in this initial explainer that racism has to be understood, systemic racism has to be understood in a way that's as natural as a tree grows from the earth, right? And she wrote that systemic racism is not about the branches or the leaves; it's actually the roots, right? And she said that from that one seed grows a mighty oak, right? But those roots are entrenched, and that root system is what's undergirding everything. So what we've done over time is, trim a branch, hedge a tree, but we haven't dealt with the roots. And that's the problem, I think, is from a systemic standpoint, we haven't dealt with the roots. So I don't know the answer to how we deal with real repair. I do know that it's needed. I do believe that we're getting closer and closer to that remedy. But we absolutely have to unabashedly pass policy and reimagine how we create opportunity for folks in this country, in particular those whose ancestry, like ours, have created so much wealth for the country and not have benefited from it. So that's how I would answer it. Although I will tell you that's a mouthful of a question.
You did a great job answering.
Yeah, I appreciate
I would love to read, and I'm sure our listeners would also love to be able to understand where your fellow was coming from in writing those beautiful words. That is a really, really great analogy, and also a great answer to the question. Where can anyone more interested in Think Rubix, completely interested in High Street Equity Partners, where can they find you?
Yeah, no, my team is going to get on me about this because I'm a little old school. We're on the internet, but we should probably be in more places, but we're working on that. We're definitely online. You can go to thinkrubix.com and check out all about us, read about us. We're constantly putting new content on our site to help folks have a window into the work that we're doing, and also how we see the world, how we're practicing change, how we view and also understand equity, and also, of course, some of the folks that we work with. You can also visit thinksocialimpact.org to find out a little information about our 501c3 and C4 sister organizations. And we're pretty active. We love resourcing folks to do the work that they do. So, feel free to reach out and work with us. And then, of course, highstreetequity.com is where you can learn about our venture and private equity firm. And learn a little bit more about what we're doing. We are actively reviewing businesses with which we're looking to make investments. And so you can learn more about that process there. And that's our little ecosystem, our contributions to the world and to this world of work. Oh, I'd be remiss. We're also on social media, I believe. Facebook and Instagram. Where else? Oh, and Medium. We do quite a bit of blogging on Medium. So I would encourage folks actually, several different articles to check out, some good reading, lots of interesting things to think about, and maybe some topic for conversation in future PowerPlay series. How about that?
That sounds wonderful. Well, look, Tristan, thank you for stopping by the PowerPlay series. Again, Tristan Wilkerson. We want to wish you continued success in your many endeavors as you push progress forward. The PowerPlay series is a monthly discussion of substantive new and emerging ideas with power players who are shaping our future with their dynamic and innovative leadership. You can catch the series on the Peter Damon Group social media platforms at Peter Damon Group on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And until next time, thank you for joining us, and keep it moving forward. Thank you.